an election year guaranteed to divide us.
This is a debacle.
Finally, a second term we can all agree on.
Yes!
Comedy Central's The Daily Show. Mondays with Jon Stewart. Tonight at 11, 10 Central on Comedy Central. And next day on Paramount+.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 22 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Latini Creative Solutions. With over 20 years of experience in design, print, and marketing, specializing in creative solutions that capture your voice and deliver your message. From supporting and energizing your already established brand to developing your company's identity and marketing campaigns, Latini Creative Solutions provides design that is thoughtful, focused, and creatively executed. If you've taken a look at the Mistress Carrie social media pages, my upcoming website, mistresscarrie.com, Cocktails in the War Room, or anything that you see with the podcast, it's been because of Latini Creative Solutions that it all looks so good. So log on to latinicreative.com for more details. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by the Maine Hair Lounge. There's a reason why my logo is my hair. I've had purple hair for decades, and everyone always asks me, how do you get it that way, and how does it stay so healthy? And my answer is always Linda at the Maine Hair Lounge. If you want to change up your hair, if you want something fresh and new, if you're getting ready for a special event like a wedding or a photo shoot, or if you just want to look cool, go see Linda at the Maine Hair Lounge. Check out her website, mainehairlounge.com, and that's M-A-N-E. Or you can check her out on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want rockin' hair, go see Linda at the Maine Hair Lounge. I also want to take the time to say what's up to Lindsay, Christina, and Robert. They are the latest recipients of the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, which you can get on Patreon. If you're looking for more Mistress Carrie in your life, especially the behind-the-scenes stuff, find out what happens backstage at Cocktails in the War Room. Get details early on the podcast, exclusive photos, polls, blogs, and very soon, discounted merchandise in the Mistress Carrie online store at mistresscarrie.com. If you just want a little extra something, get yourself a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass. Just go to patreon.com/Mistress Carrie. And by the way, with the holidays coming up, it makes an awesome gift. Okay, episode 22 of the podcast is a special one. I've known Josh Todd from Buckcherry for a couple of decades now. When you think about a band that's the soundtrack to a party, a barbecue, if you're having a bash, Buckcherry's that band that you want playing. They're a down and dirty rock band, and that is why I have always loved them. And Josh and I have known each other for so long and been there through all the ups and downs of our careers. I remember the first time he played me Crazy Bitch after we got off a private jet in Toronto with Daryl McDaniels for Live 8. He was like, what do you think of this song? And I was like, I think that song just became my new theme song. Over the years, if there was a party, a concert, an event, Buckcherry was always there to play it for us. So I had a chance to talk to Josh about WAAF going off the air, how he's dealing with COVID-19. We talked about his childhood. We basically talked about everything. So if you're a fan of rock and roll, you got to be a fan of Buckcherry. And if you're not a fan yet, you will be. Allow me to introduce you to Josh Todd from Buckcherry.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stanford.
Mustaine, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
This is Marilyn Manson, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hello, Mr. Josh Todd.
What's happening?
Oh my God, it's so good to see your face.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. Yeah, it's been a while, and a lot has gone on. We were just catching up, and
yeah, I was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. I can hear you good. Don't talk about too much because I want to hit record because I don't want to miss anything.
Yes.
Okay. Are you in Nashville right now?
I'm in Nashville making an amazing record. It's our 9th record, and we're out here. Marty Fredrickson is producing again, and he's got a studio here, so it just made more sense for all of us to come here and do all of our stuff. And we're like way ahead of schedule. After I get off this call, I'm gonna go sing a song, and then I have one more to do tomorrow, and then I'm just doing touch-ups, and then I'm out of here. Everything's going really great. It's such a great record. We worked really hard. Like, we were supposed to be touring this whole year because we dropped War Paint last year, our 8th record, and we were going to just tour a while on that and start accumulating new songs, but it wasn't like a full on record songwriting session that we usually do. And it was like, oh, all the shows are wiped out, so let's concentrate on this record. And so we really concentrated on making just an incredible record. We wrote about 26 songs for a 10-song record, and really paid off.
It's amazing how what's happened with COVID has derailed. I mean, I try when I talk to you guys, I know you're making these like gun to the head motions right now. When I talk to people like you, I always want people listening to the podcast to kind of understand the business side of things a little bit more, because it's really hard when we as fans, your record comes out, we get all excited, you release the show dates, we get the tickets, we come, we order the beers at the bar, we get the t-shirts, like we're on that end of it. But you, for so many years, this band has been your baby, and you are so involved with the other side of the business. I mean, you guys all have agents and managers and record company people that you have to deal with, but you are very involved with all things Buckcherry.
Yes.
So if you don't mind,
I'm the last man standing.
So it's like, let's talk about what your plan was, and then how it turned into you being ahead of schedule in Nashville working on this new record with Marty Fredrickson. So you released War Paint last year. And in your head, you guys were going to tour in all of 2020 on War Paint.
Yeah, we were going to tour, but not as heavy as we did in 2019, because we dropped the record then. We did 154 shows in 2019 on War Paint. So we did do a lot of touring behind it. But then we were going to come into 2020, and we were going to get some touring in, but also create little pockets of time where we would, do some songwriting at home and, kind of get a body of work going like that while we were, out working and still promoting War Paint.
That's how you guys have always done it, right?
Always done it like that.
You start song ideas while you're on the road, which I'm assuming that whole process is inspirational because you're kind of away from your families, you're neck deep in your fans every day, and you're also really tight as a band because you're playing together every day. Yeah,
and you have, like you're saying, there's not all the family time that occupies your day when you're at home, so you have a lot more time to, from a creative standpoint, to craft songs and spend time on them and, lyric write and all that kind of stuff.
So when this year did you guys pull the plug on everything? How far back are we talking in the COVID disaster?
Man, it was like, I gotta say, it was like March of 2020, where it was just like every week, every morning I'd wake up, I'd be like, all these shows are wiped out. Canada's wiped out. All these shows next month. I'm like, what? Like, okay, so now we have a whole month of no touring. So then it was like, okay, shift gears. I'd call Stevie and I'd like, let's occupy the time. Let's be productive. Let's work on songs. And so we just start working on songs. And then next month would come around and it was like, yeah, this whole month's wiped away. It looks like they've closed the borders, and so on and so forth. And it was just a nightmare, that just kept going on. And then, we've been doing all kinds of things outside of music to scramble to make extra money. And it's been crazy. And if I told you what my hustle this year, you'd just be like, what? Let me just tell you this one thing. Since I've been in quarantine and I've made a record, I have become a licensed phlebotomy technician as well.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I actually, before I got on here, I just got the email because I went to school. I passed my national exam. I've already done my externship. And then I just got my license and that came in my email. And I've been calling my manager. I'm like, listen, if I'm not working till April of next year, I'm getting a job. I can't sit around anymore,
Well, that's why I want to talk to you about this, because I think that we are at a point where people are starting to realize that there are different tiers of, I don't want to say rock stars, but there's different tiers of fame, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
There are bands, hard-working, out on the road, kick-ass bands, and that need to still tour. There are bands that have songs that are, or artists, I should say, that have songs that you guys you never have to get out of bed. That the songs make you money whether you do anything or not.
I am not set for life.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, is that I think people with COVID are starting to understand that just because we buy your records and just because we wear your t-shirts, it doesn't mean that you're living like Hugh Hefner for the rest of your lives and don't have to quote unquote work. That especially rock bands, part of your whole thing is being able to get out on the road and play in these shows. And I mean,
that's our livelihood right there.
Yeah, that there's certain artists that can just release a song, like Taylor Swift, right? Taylor Swift's music is going to get played on the radio and licensed in movies and all of that stuff. And Taylor Swift literally never has to fucking get out of bed.
Right.
Now, she would have to fire a ton of people and maybe get rid of a house or two, but she's never got to work again if she doesn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's youth and that's pop music and that's a whole different
Well, that's what I'm trying to show, the difference. And I think one of the things that people like about this podcast is that we can pull the veil back a little and really kind of get people to understand, especially when we start talking about the Save Our Stages stuff wrapped into the Heroes Bill that Congress has stalled in the aid package, is that we're starting to see the after effects, and that a lot of bands who have songs on the radio, who are out touring, that we look at like rock stars, you're not just doing it for the love of it. It's that you guys, this is how you make your living. And it's been so long now that these things are starting. Even people that were prepared for emergencies and were smart with their money and had savings accounts, that things are starting to trickle down now.
I have savings, but like when you're talking about, we're going to just hit you with, you're not going to have a year of income, like a whole year. You're not going to have what you normally make at all, like not even close. And it's like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot to cover a year. Some people can't even cover a month. Some people can't even cover a couple months, or 6 months. And it's like, I can't do this a year and a half. A year I can sustain, but I'm like I'm on the edge now, and now it's like, we might get back to touring in April. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no way. I'll work 5 jobs. I have kids. I have just like what everybody else has,
Yeah, and it's not just an exclusive problem to the United States, but with bands. I had a great conversation with Will and Troy from Evanescence about this, and then Kevin Martin from Candlebox, the same thing, was on an episode talking about our entertainment business here in the United States is by and large our biggest export to the rest of the world. The amount of money that is propped up in the American economy by entertainment, which I think a lot of people don't look at as essential, right? That, first responders, medical personnel, especially right now, they are the most essential people. Did you ever value the cashier at the supermarket? I know. That's what I was going to say.
Now.
And so
I've been working through the whole pandemic. I took odd jobs starting in March. I was working and writing songs. I mean, I am not good not working. So I like to work, and I have no problem humbling myself and showing up at any job and just working. I don't care, because I've always worked. I've worked since I was 13, so like
I think that's part of the reason why you and I have always gotten along, is that we have a very, very similar work ethic, and we just look at the world that way. That we're just like, hey, we got to do whatever we got to do, man.
Right. That's right. I don't care. I'm Josh Todd, the singer. I could give a shit. I just want to go out and I got to stay busy.
Yeah. And also, you're talking about, you have a family.
That's right.
And the way that the entertainment business now, with movies not being able to come out in theaters and concerts not being able, to happen, all of the jobs that trickle down that are propped up by this entertainment industry are the effects. I don't think people really understand the millions of people. I'm talking union laborers, truck drivers, electricians, sound guys, the people that make the instruments, the crews,
the technicians.
All of that. And these are incredibly specifically trained people that have really good jobs. Like I ask the bands all the time, what is having a good sound guy? What is having a guitar tech? How does that change the quality of your performance? It changes everything.
It's huge. And, those guys, they make a career out of that. They're on the road. They're lifers. They're on the road all the time. They go from tour to tour, bands to bands. And that's what they do. That's what they chose to do. And that's what they want to do. And, I always go through a gratitude list every day, in my head. And one of my gratitude lists has always been like being able to employ a bunch of people, like getting to that level where I have employed people for, let's see, how many years in the game have we been in? 21 years. So 21 years, we've been employing people annually,
You're a small business.
Yes. And now it's like they all have to go find other things outside of music too. They're all struggling as well.
Why did you choose phlebotomy?
I never went to college. It's a bizarre thing. So I never went to college. So I don't have a college education. I'm not going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to go just cram 4 years of school into my head right now. I just, I went to this blood bank. Whenever I get blood, I always go to this place called Quest Diagnostics. And, cause I go there cause it's close to my house and I got to fast and I don't want to I just want to do it first thing in the morning. So I get there at 6 a.m. This is when I do my annual physical. And this big, tall, tattooed guy came in one day and he took my blood and I literally didn't even feel it. I couldn't believe the touch he had. And so I just started talking to him and, of course I'm really tattooed. So I have to think about an occupation where I can, go out there
look the way you look,
and look the way I look and do and find some kind of thing that I do that I'm interested in. And I just kind of started getting interested in it. I know it's really weird, but and then I started doing research and I'm just like, oh, I went to school it was only 2 weeks and, we started sticking each other after the second day and
obviously you're not afraid of needles because you're literally one of the most tattooed people I know.
not afraid of needles, but when you're getting stuck like 5 or 6 times a day, you know, I really started getting over that. We all had like super achy arms, and we're sticking each other in hands and arms. And anyways, I had a really good instructor, and it was, I really enjoyed learning new things. You know, that's why I always like writing new records, because it's like building something from nothing, and it's really exciting for me. And so I really enjoyed like getting out of my comfort zone and doing something completely different. So that part of it was really fun. Taking the written exam was like, you know.
When's the last time you took an exam on anything?
Yeah, this is the thing. I had convinced myself that I was terrible at school, because when I was in school, I was always under the influence of some kind of narcotic or something. So I was not good in school for a reason. I wasn't really present, you know, and so now I've been sober, 26 years. And so, but I still had this thing where I'm not going to do good on this thing. And I went in, and there's 120 questions, and you got 2 hours to do it. And I passed first time. So, you know, I was like, yes, you know, but
maybe you are a better test taker than you thought.
I don't know. I studied like 4 hours a day for like 5 days straight before I went in there. So, you know, I was pretty prepared, which is good.
So now somebody could go to donate blood, or, you know, go to get tests or whatever. And Josh Todd from Buckcherry is going to walk in with the needles.
I'll take your blood. I'm pretty good at it. I've only like failed like twice out of like, I've had like over 50 vena punctures. So I'm all right. I can do all right.
We didn't really have a chance to catch up before I turn the microphones on, but I want to apologize, because it keeps coming up in the podcast that WAAF going off the air on the 21st of February, we're convinced now it's triggered the apocalypse, right? That the world just went to shit because of that. So the fact that you're now a phlebotomist, we can blame part of that on WAAF not being on the air anymore.
Yeah, I was like, I need a pandemic-proof job. I can't be doing this. So I was like, I'll go in there with my mask on. I don't give a shit what's going on. I'll go in anywhere.
We didn't get a lot of notice when we found out that the station, the transmitter and the signal had been sold, and we tried to reach out to as many bands as we could on no notice. I mean, the last thing I expected going into work, you know, the Tuesday after President's Day, was finding out that a legacy 50-year rock station was getting taken off the air in a couple days. So I haven't had a chance to catch up with you since that happened. And so I wanted to talk about some of your early memories of WAAF and kind of what the station meant to you, because I didn't get a chance to get you on the air to talk about it when the station was still there.
Yeah, you know, I think the most memorable thing about it was the big radio shows they would put on, and when we were a part of that, it was, man, that was an incredible moment. You know, I mean, that's what you dream about when you're an artist. You know, having a hit song, having a song played on radio. You know, Lit Up and Crazy Bitch and Sorry at the time. You know, and going and playing those festivals where you're kind of in the mix with all your peers, and, you know, and it's insane. The show's going off, and meeting you, of course, and doing our interviews and getting to know you over the years have been incredible. And that's what I remember the most about it, for sure.
I mean, it's, you know, I remember all those different shows, and I remember Loco Bazooka in 2006, because it was at the Big Shed, the big outdoor amphitheater, and I literally was leaving for Iraq like 4 days or 5 days later, and I had been training to get ready to go, and had to wear all of my body armor and stuff, which weighed like 30 or 40 pounds.
That's right.
And I remember coming into your dressing room, and you guys were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And you were like, "You guys, you're totally wearing that to introduce us." And I remember going out into this giant crowd at Loco Bazooka of like 20-something thousand people to introduce you guys. And as I'm walking off the stage from introducing Buckcherry, you like punched me in the chest because I had the vest on with the rifle plates. Yeah.
Because I don't remember that.
Because it was like this thick, like, you know, the bulletproof vest.
Yeah,
and you're like, gave me the shot in the chest. And I was like, Okay, I can't take Josh Todd's punch to the chest. I'm not going to be good taking a rifle round to the chest.
Oh man, that's crazy. You would, we played Qatar, which is a huge military base in the Middle East.
Yep.
It's where all of our armed forces come in. They all hub into there, and then they go out to their separate places of, I don't know, their posts or whatever you want to call them. But you would have loved it. Like, we got to go into the canine section and the artillery section, and it was really fascinating.
Every time I get a chance to talk to a band member that has gone overseas and played military bases and played for our troops, I always want to get their perspective on it because it's a different kind of show.
It's pretty amazing. One thing that was kind of weird was they only have a 2-drink minimum when they're on the base. So they were pretty alert when we went on. They were very sober,
If they're allowed to drink at all.
Right.
A lot of them, they're not. Yeah.
For sure. But it was intense because when we were walking on stage, there was the main guy. I don't know if he's a sergeant or he's higher up than the sergeant, but whoever the guy is, the big guy there.
The commander, probably.
The commander. He was saluting us. Like, everybody was in full salute when we were walking on stage. It was like heavy. It was like, wow, this is incredible. The craziest thing about Qatar is, like, it's so oil rich with money, right? There's so much money there. It's ridiculous. You drive into the military station from the airport, and it's like Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and like the Ferraris everywhere. It's
like Kuwait. It's the same way. And all of the Emirates are like that. If you go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, it's like, you and I are talking about dealing with a pandemic and, odd jobs and whatever. Like, that level that's fuck you money. That's a whole...
It's insane.
You can't even imagine that level of wealth.
If you're a Qatarian male at birth, you are a millionaire at birth. So if you're a male Qatarian and you're born, you're a millionaire at birth. And if you're a female, I think you're $500,000 at birth.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
You got to marry good. You got to marry
insane.
Good. There is no more grateful crowd, right, than a military crowd when you make the effort because they know how hard it is to go and logistically get there to play those shows. So they're so grateful and humble that you would route your tour that way to show up over there and play for them.
They're so grateful and they're so gracious. And yeah, I mean, they treated us like kings everywhere we went on the base, the day before and the day after. And, the show, of course, was like so fun because, we had come all that way, and it was just an incredible adventure, and I remember I had a cold. I was sick. So I was like, I had a cold before I got on the plane, and I'm like, I am not missing this show. It is I don't care what is up with me. And it was weird. Like, before I went on, everything just happened, and my whole sinuses, everything opened up, and it was like amazing. When we killed it, and then that was it. It was great.
And to get a chance to kind of, you're talking about going and seeing the canines and all of those facilities as people that aren't in the military, like you and I aren't, to kind of get, they get to see you at your day job, right? They come to the concerts, they see you do what you do, but to then get off stage and be able to go and kind of travel around and learn their jobs and see what they do, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating, and they take a lot of pride, and they're very disciplined, and it's really inspiring, to see what's going on behind the scenes, and how it makes you feel really secure when you come home and that you're an American, and they're looking after you. They're protecting us, and it's awesome.
Kind of makes you feel like shit about yourself too, because you're with 19 and 20-year-olds that are way more squared away, trained, responsible than you and I ever were at that age. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's cool too. Like, when you talk to them, as soon as you start asking them about their job, they're very technical. It all becomes about business, and the fact that you are a rock singer goes completely out the window, and it just becomes all about, their job. And I love that.
Yeah, it's something that we've made the comparison on the podcast before, that the similarity is, with the military and with the musicians, is that you guys are always traveling. You're away from your homes a lot. It's a specialized skill, and it requires that same kind of work ethic. And we've stumbled across so many examples of guys in bands that have dads that were in the military.
Yes.
And are you that way too? Did you have military in your family?
Yeah, my father was in the Army. He went to Vietnam. Yeah, my uncle was in the Air Force. Yep. Do
you attribute some of the things that your dad... Yeah. Do you attribute a lot of that to the work ethic that you have, and then the success of Buckcherry because of the way that your dad was, because of his military training?
That's a tough one because, yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. It's more about my grandpa. My grandpa really kind of taught me. He was kind of like my father figure, because my father passed away when I was really young, when I was 10. But like my grandfather really taught me the value of money and what hard work, that you have to work hard. And like I said, I started working at 13 on a farm in Oklahoma, when my mother would fly my sister and I there as unaccompanied minors whenever we were out of school, because she had to work full time. And so here I was in a small town. I grew up in Southern California, but I was always in a small country town. And my grandfather was a school teacher and a wheat farmer. And so he would give me jobs. So I would work all summer with him, doing odd jobs, fixing fences, plowing fields, doing all the things that we do around the farm, and then tending roofs and all this stuff. And then he would pay me, and then we would go to the cattle auction, which was really interesting. And I would buy a couple of baby calves with my money, right? And then my grandfather would take care of the baby calves throughout the winter, all the way through the summer. And then when I would come back the following year, we would go sell them for more money, and he would show me how to make a profit from, my earnings. So he'd say, see, you bought this cow at like whatever, let's say $300, and we sold it for $700, and here's your profit and here's your money. And then we would continue to do that. And so he was a really amazing guy. He really, I miss him a lot. He taught me a lot.
Those are important lessons at that age too. And directly correlate to what we're talking about, surviving COVID and trying to navigate this uncertain economy and, just everything that's going on, all of the change. And it's like, at the end of the day, you got to just find a way to work hard and figure it out and do whatever is best for you and your family.
Heck yeah. Always. That comes first for me, at least.
How has it been as a dad and a husband, and being locked in the house when you're a guy that is so used to being on the road? How was that downshift for you?
I did it for a few weeks, and then I couldn't handle it anymore. I just went out and got a job, like I was saying. But not that I don't love my family. It's just that I have this fire underneath me. Like, I've got to provide. I gotta find something. It's weird whenever I just go out and get any kind of job, when I'm in any kind of situation, because I've been in this a lot. There's a lot of peaks and valleys in the music game, Like, I didn't start making professional money. I didn't make money professionally from music till I was 26, and I've been at it since I got out of high school. So I had to basically work two jobs all the way up into that time, where I was working a day job and then going to music at night, and
crashing on friends' couches and trying to figure out how to put gas in the car.
Yeah,
that's where good rock and roll comes from.
All that stuff. I worked my ass off for it. So, to get back to it was humbling. I can't say it wasn't humbling, but after I got in it, I was just like, I'm fine. This is, I have no problems just getting up and getting to it. And then it's weird. It's like, it takes the pressure off of me. Even when I'm working some odd job, I feel better about myself. And then the pressure is off of me when all of a sudden all this other stuff just starts coming in without any effort, music wise. So, you know, we've been very fortunate. We got on a great new label called Round Hill Music this year. We like I said, we're in the studio making a great new record, and also November. It's November
11th.
11th is the online performance. So you guys can go out there and get tickets right now. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern. But if you buy a ticket, you get the performance streaming for 48 hours if you can't make it at that time. And yeah, it's going to be we're playing a whole show, and it's 14 songs, and it's going to be fun. So if you need your Buckcherry fix, go out there and buy a ticket.
I think it's really interesting. I love that the bands are doing these live streams, not only because it gives you guys something to do, but it gives us something to watch, because as music fans, we're dying to go to shows. I mean, that's part of the whole lifestyle and experience, is getting together and experiencing this live music. How do you prepare for a concert where you're not going to have an audience in the room?
You know, we've done over a handful of shows this year where it's been like that. So we kind of knew what we were getting into on this one, you know. It's very strange. I can't tell you that it's not. It's really weird. So sometimes we have to say, okay, guys, this is a paid rehearsal. Just go out there and, you know, visualize in your mind that we're, you know, at Madison Square Garden or whatever. You know, that's what we do, honestly, you know. And once we're on stage and we're all together, we enjoy each other's company. Like, this band is, yeah, it's hitting on all cylinders. The best musicians we've ever had in it, and it really shows.
When you talk about, you know, the band and everybody, you know, you've had lineup changes over the years. You've alluded to it that you're like the last man standing now. Yeah. When you go to kind of replace a member, the personality and the work ethic and all of those things, not just the musical ability, it's almost like you're trying to pick a family member. Like when you're born, you get the siblings you get, but then to go out and try to find one that fits in with the rest of the family, that's got to be hard.
Yeah, and it's weird now that we've done this for a few
21
times.
years, yeah.
But I mean, as far as getting new members in the mix, you know, Stevie and I were talking about this the other day. I'm like, you know what? You really don't know who the person is till you're in a band with them for about 2 years. And then you kind of know exactly what's going on. Because when people get into the mix, they put on their best, you know, it's just like when you start a new relationship, you're on your best behavior and everything's amazing. And then as soon as you guys have banged for like 6 months, it's like, okay, here's the real person.
I'm not shaving. You know?
the real person shows up.
I got dry skin on my heels. I got no makeup and my hair in a bun. You're lucky if I'm wearing underwear.
Oh, and by the way, I don't want to be bothered in the morning and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, you guys get tested where you're crammed in a tour bus too.
Yes.
Where it's like you start getting annoyed. You don't have very many places to go.
That's what I mean. It's like, okay, you got to have good musical skills, but then we're looking at you as like, can we live with this person? Because we're going to be like really living with this person like right away. It's challenging, and it's honestly something I never thought would happen. I always wanted to be in one band my whole career and everybody stay together, but it just didn't work out that way. And it's okay. You know, I've accepted that now, you know, that's just the way it goes. And it's very hard to keep 5 guys aligned and focused on one thing. It's super hard. And I didn't know how challenging that was going to be. And, you know, you know, at the end of the day, we always just want to make the situation better. And that's what's gone on over the years. So that's all I can ask for.
You talk about it being like a relationship. I mean, I'm a divorced person that's been newly remarried, and it's like you don't go into anything thinking that it's going to end, but you also realize after the fact that you kind of needed to go through that to grow, and as you make these changes, you start really understanding yourself a little bit better as well. And it's hard to look at it as a learning thing because it's a breakup in any sense, and it hurts, and you get angry and whatever, and it's an ending and a death to a certain extent. But
It is.
but moving forward, it can be, I don't want to say better, but you find a way to kind of heal and learn about yourself and set boundaries and goals for yourself. And there is a way to move on and be happy.
Absolutely. Just like you're saying, I mean, I've had to do a lot of reflection, a lot of work on myself through every transition. And like you said, it's just a learning process, and that's what life is. It's a journey, not a destination. Right. So we just keep plugging away.
One of the things that also keeps coming up every time I talk to somebody, Nashville continues to be a topic of conversation with the interviews, because it seems like every freaking rock band out there right now is either living in Nashville or recording in Nashville or rehearsing in Nashville. You're there right now. What is going on with the rock scene in Nashville?
I don't know if it's a rock scene. Marty Fredrickson.
It seems like you guys are like it's always been a music town and a country town, but it seems like more and more rock bands are there now.
Well, we're just here because we have a relationship with Marty, and when we started working with Marty, he lived in California, so he's lived here for a lot of years now, and it's just, as far as the budget and working everything out, when you look at a record budget, it just makes more sense for us to just come here and do it here and go home, So that's the only reason we're here. It's not like there's some special thing going on here. It's just that Marty's here, and so we're like, let's just go there and get it done there. But I understand. There's a lot of songwriters here now, and there's a lot of people living here now because it's cheaper to live. But I mean, now that everybody's moved here, it's starting to get more expensive to live here. But I think a lot of people live on the outskirts, not necessarily in Nashville, but they come into Nashville to record and stuff like that. There's just a lot of studios.
Talk to me about a producer like Marty Fredrickson. And for anybody that is going to be Googling him while they're listening to this interview, he's worked with everybody from Aerosmith and Motley Crue, Buckcherry, obviously, but then he's worked with Carrie Underwood and Faith Hill, and he's written these massive, he wrote Sorry with you guys. He wrote Jaded with, Jaded with Aerosmith, like some of the bands and artists' biggest songs. Talk to me about what it's like to find somebody that, when we're talking about replacing a band member, he's not in the band, but you've got to have a special relationship to be able to create and work on music with somebody.
No, we have a really, really good chemistry with him. And, when you find that, you got to just stay on it, because we've written with other people and it just doesn't click like, when we write with him. And maybe some people write with him and they don't click. I don't know, but it just works out for us. He becomes like the sixth member of Buckcherry when we work with him, and it's effortless and fun. And he's a really talented guy, and he brings out the best in us as well. And so we always get great songs. So that's why we do it. And he's like you said, he's written with so many people, and he's a really talented guy. He can play every instrument, and he's really great with melodies as well. And, I can be recording a vocal and he can be like, hey, sing this line like this, just try it like this. And I'd be like, okay. And he'll sing it for me and I can hear it, and I'd be like, okay, great. It's like when you don't have a producer that knows vocals, it's a drag because it's such a huge part of everything, like it literally drives a record is the melody and the vocals. And at least in my opinion, and maybe that's because I'm a lead singer, but I think a lot of other people would agree with that. But he's good with that, and he started as a drummer as well, so he's a really good drummer, and he can play guitar really well, and he can just break down any song. And so we have a really good songwriting language between he and I and Stevie. It's great.
For anybody that doesn't know, he was the voice behind the band in Almost Famous, Stillwater. Like, he sang those vocal parts. The actors portraying the characters in the movie didn't sing it. He actually sang it. So when you talk about him understanding vocals, he can sing.
Yeah, he can.
Can you give me an example? Like you were saying that, he co-wrote Sorry with you. So you come up with an idea for a song, whether it be a lyric or a melody or whatever. But I always am fascinated with the producer relationship and how an outside perspective can help make something, because music is so personal for the artist. So can you, like in Sorry or another song that you've written with him, to give an example about what the vision was in your head and how he was able to kind of get in there and tweak it and make it better?
Right. So I wrote the whole song, Sorry, on 3 chords on a guitar, just something to noodle around the house, something G-rated to like sing to my youngest daughter at the time. And that's how it all started, And then we were writing all the songs for the 15 record. And I went to Keith at one point when it was time, when you have to really pick the window to like introduce a slow ballady song, So we had written a lot of rock songs. So we were tired at that point of, up-tempo rock songs. And I was like, I got this song. I think it could be really cool. And so I played him Sorry. And then he took it and kind of tweaked a couple chords. And we brought it kind of to the next level, but it just wasn't quite happening, right? And we're like, well, this is one of these songs we could take to Marty and see what he can do with it. And we brought it to Marty, and Marty would he just changed the way I was singing the melody and the chorus a little bit. And I can't really remember what the difference was, but it was like this really subtle thing that I was singing in the chorus, and it just went, it just totally opened up the song. It was like, wow, that's amazing. And then he came up with the bridge chords, and he just started scatting out like this melody over the bridge chords. And then I was like, I like that. And I went back and I wrote words to the melody, and then that was it. And it just came together like that. And
so sometimes you need that outside perspective.
Yeah, it was just
get it out of your head.
It was that little push that made it a song that would just never make a record to a song that made a record, and got you to another level. That's how crazy it is. Just those little subtle changes.
Are you guys going to play any of this new music that you're working on right now on that live stream on the 11th?
No. We're not ready to do that yet. But we have so many songs we can't even get to because we have 8 records out, and you got to do a 14, 15 song set. And it's like, man, we got to make everybody happy. And, you have to have all the usual suspects, which are, Crazy Bitch Sorry and Lit Up and Riding and stuff like that. So it's tough. It's tough getting a set list together these days.
What have you been doing? Like for me, I have been trying to get outside the best that I can, because you get claustrophobic, and starting my company and building, I call it MCHQ, my studio that I do the podcast out of and everything. But I've needed to get outside, and I know, racing and all of that has always been a passion for you. Is that what you've been doing to kind of not work, to kind of escape and get outside and get some fresh air?
The racing was taking so much time away from my family because I have to drive an hour to get to the track, and then I have to spend a whole day there. And, my son is almost 12, and I tried to get him into racing, but it just wasn't his thing. So I couldn't even make it more of a family affair. And so I had to put that on the sidelines. So I took up tennis, and I played tennis like crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Tennis is my new obsession. I played a little bit when I was a kid. I just love competing, so I played a little bit as a kid, and so I jumped right in. I just started doing YouTube videos and practicing, and now I take, lessons from, I got into the USTA, which is a tennis organization, and I play a lot of matches with a lot of men my age and my skill level, and I really enjoy it.
I did not expect you to say tennis.
Yeah.
You got me with that one.
It's a really challenging sport, You should
I've tried it before, and it's fun, but I suck.
Yeah, once you get past sucking and you like kind of work on the fundamentals, and it gets really, really fun, and it's super challenging. Like, you're never like at a place where you're like, I'm going to go in and just crush this. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, and you don't know what's showing up, and nerves play a role, and it just takes all of my focus, and it's really good escape for me. And it's socially distant. So
that's true. Yeah. Have you been able to get the 12-year-old into it?
Yeah, my son, he takes lessons, and I go with him to his lessons. And I started, he has a coach, and I liked his coach so much. I started taking private lessons from his coach, and we have a lot of fun, but we're not playing each other yet. He's not at that level.
What's changed being a dad, being this accessible with your kids this year that you have not been able to do before? I mean, when you talk about like, self-reflection and all of that, like, what's it been like to be able to be way more present?
I'm pretty present because, I've been sober all these years. So
I mean, like physically present, just because you're not touring.
Physically present is a whole different thing. But, I'm very hands-on when I'm with my kids, even when I'm home. So, we do a lot of stuff together. I'm very physically active. So my son and I go skateboarding a lot. We'll go to like public skateboarding parks and just kill a day at a public skateboarding park. Or, I'll take my daughter to, she's very girly girl. She likes, we'll go to the mall when the mall's open, or we do a lot of things where we walk around the neighborhood. We'll walk to Starbucks. That's our whole thing. We like to walk and talk. So I kind of get caught up with her walking to Starbucks, and we have our Starbucks, and then we walk around the neighborhood for a while and come home, and that's lovely. And same thing with my wife. And, California has been pretty strict, a lot more strict than everywhere else. And so we haven't been able to do a whole lot. So we're doing a lot of walking around the neighborhood, and we do a lot of that. But now we're able to go out to at least some restaurants outdoors, which is nice, and doing that.
Yeah. And you guys, we've been able to do that too here because Massachusetts has been pretty strict, but obviously, the weather is changing here. And it's unless you want to put a snowsuit on and go sit outside and eat at a restaurant, like as the weather gets colder here,
I'd have a treadmill and a rowing machine. I'd be like working my ass off in the house. If I don't like get the let out every day, I go bananas in my head. That would just make me crazy.
When you've been a musician for so long and you're one of those people that I know that's always been incredibly vocal and upfront and honest about your sobriety. And the band, it's been 21 years, but you've been sober for 26. Mm. How are you handling your health and maintaining not only your physical health, but your vocal health differently now than you were 20 years ago?
Oh my God, it's changed so much. I have to do so much, I do a lot of vocal exercising, even when I'm not singing. So that's like a lot of scales and everything. I do scales like literally every day. So if I'm not singing, I'm doing scales. And then you got to take care of your cardiovascular, which I'm really good at. I do a lot of working out and physical activity and so all that stuff, and then eating right, not tomato based food, anything that gives you kind of acid reflux you want to stay away from, stuff like that. No carbonated drinks, room temperature water. It's no fun being a singer.
I never learned that until the band started coming into the AAF studio to play acoustic over the years. And we would say, is there anything that we can have? And they would always just be like, make sure you have room temperature water for the singer because the cold water. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I don't think people realize what that can do.
Well, think about it. If you were like, let's say in a boxing match and you're boxing and then somebody just took, cold water and just like sprayed your whole body with it, your muscles would get tight. You wouldn't be flexible. And that's the same thing. You don't want to splash like cold water on warm vocal folds. It's just, it make it very difficult to sing. Not only that, you risk injury because if you're like pushing your voice at a certain level and then you throw cold beverage over it and you keep pushing your voice at that same level, you're going to give yourself a node or something. You have to be very careful, and I don't even drink water when I sing live anymore. I don't drink any water when I sing live, because once I warm up, I want my pipes to be flexible. Even room temperature water, I can tell a difference when I sing my next note after I take a sip, So I remember I was watching Steve Perry on a Journey live video, and I was like, man, that guy doesn't take a sip of water ever. Like, he's going from song to song to song. And this guy is like, his vocal technique and everything was like so insane, insanely good. And so I was like, after watching him, I was like, I'm going to try this. And I started working on it and, cutting the cord, not having any water there to, like, it was almost like a nervous thing. I would just take a sip after every song, and so
something to do in the awkward silent moments when you're on stage.
And sometimes I'll see like young guys that haven't toured a lot, and they'll be like pounding like cold beers during their set and all this stuff. And I'm just like, those guys have such a rude awakening if they start doing like, 150, 200 shows a year. There's no way they can maintain that and keep your voice healthy. It just doesn't work.
When you talk about vocals, and these are always subjective answers to questions, obviously, but you talk about a Steve Perry as a vocalist, is that your bar? Like, who's in your Mount Rushmore of vocalists that you're just like, that's the fucking high bar right there?
Oh, well, probably Prince. I mean, he was always the as far as his range. And I mean, if you want to talk about like range and vocal technique and everything, for me, it's Prince, or like Bruno Mars is like the new Prince, and his vocal range is ridiculous, and so guys like that, I really, I'm like, oh my God, I've developed a falsetto after years and years. I never thought I even had a falsetto, because I had really pushed my voice so hard that I never had a falsetto. And so I've had to train at different, I had to, once I hit like 30, I had to really learn a whole new way of singing, because the old way wasn't working. I was doing a lot of things wrong in my technique. So, So anyways, that being said, those guys are like, got the biggest, amazing, as far as like rock music, I don't know, like new rock guys.
Rock in general. I mean, you brought up Steve Perry. It's like you go back and watch those old Journey performances, and it's like, holy shit.
All those old guys, like, like Lane Staley was like a really incredible vocalist, probably one of the best vocalists that ever came out of that Seattle scene was Lane Staley, him and Chris Cornell, of course. And so I look up to those guys as well. And, just, I don't know, in the last decade, there hasn't been singers that really, in rock music, that really sing like that, so I always go back to the older guys.
When you are warming up, I've seen you do it. I've been around backstage, and you lock yourself in a room, and I know you got to go and cut vocal tracks today. So
yeah, I got to get off here soon.
Yeah. So can you go through like one of the things that you do to warm your voice up and talk about how it is that you do it? I know you're laughing. You're like, oh, are you kidding me? But it's really fascinating.
I do a morning vocal warm up where it's just humming, and it's just like, and so on, all the way up your range and then down, and and then you go into me, and A's and O's and all the vowels basically in the alphabet, and you just keep going all the way up and all the way down, and all the way up and all the way down, and all the way up and all the way down, until you do that for about 35, 40 minutes. That's what I do. Some people do it less, some people do it more, and then you got to kind of wait about 10 minutes, and then, because what you're doing is you're like, it's like a rubber band. You're like stretching and pulling and stretching and pulling and it's going out and in, and you're going farther and farther. And so then you need to rest a little bit, and then you go and you just sing and just go
and drive the people crazy that are around you that have to listen to it every day.
Then you just go and get it. Yeah. You do the best you can.
Well, the live stream is on November 11th. I'm going to put the link to buy the tickets in the description of the podcast. So when people are listening to it, it'll make it easy for them to get tickets. It was so good to see you.
Hold on.
Yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, it's probably Steve. Hi. I am not checking out. No. I'm sorry. No. What's that?
He's in his hotel.
I'm okay. Yeah. It's all right. No worries. You too. Am I checking out?
They're trying to kick you out, Josh.
Try to get me out of here.
Did she at least offer to leave a mint on your pillow or something?
She offered me towels, and I probably would have taken them, but I just wanted to get her out so we could finish up.
Well, all I was going to say is it was great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well.
Starting my company and launching the podcast, and thank you.
Yeah, it's not easy to do.
And the fact that there isn't a place in the Northeast anymore like WAAF that can play this new music. I mean, all the rock stations now are classic rock stations. And so to not only lose a station like that and know that it's not going to get replaced, as a fan of someone that grew up listening to AAF, it's a huge loss for me. But then bigger, it's such a huge loss for the region because you know what a rabid rock audience we have up here. And now to not have that outlet, you know, that's why I started my company and launched my podcast, because I want to keep this rock scene alive and moving forward and keep us together and be able to not only talk to bands that we've known and loved for years like Buckcherry, but to be able to support your new stuff and then to be able to hopefully discover some new bands that people haven't heard of before and turn them on to some new music. It's like there isn't another way to do it.
Yeah, and it's great that you're providing that service. And it's crazy because WAAF, I remember, used to be one of the big ones. Like if you got WAAF and this other station, then you guys are like, then all the other ones open up or whatever they would say at the time. And that's it's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's just the fact that all of the bands, yourself included, have been so supportive of me and my new endeavor. And, you know, as soon as I reached out, it was like, well, yeah, of course. Like, there's no hesitation. There was no. It means a lot that this has been such a scary year for everybody with the virus. But for me, you know, I had a few weeks notice of kind of having my world implode when the station got taken off the air. And so, you know, to go through that mourning period and then to realize, oh, okay, well, I'm not just going to go and get a job at another radio station because COVID's affecting everybody now, and I'm going to have to do this on my own. To get the support from the bands and the musicians has been so important, and it means the world. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, it was a no-brainer for us. So it's great to see you, and I love what you're doing.
You know, I'm glad to hear that you guys are working on new music. And do you are you waiting on release dates and all of that for next year based on how things go?
Yeah, we're in a holding pattern because we're not going to release a record and not go tour on it. You know, you work too hard.
It already happened to you last year to a certain extent that you couldn't finish the tour.
Yeah. So I feel bad for all the bands that had records coming out this year. I mean, that's tragic. You know, I'm so glad that we got to release our record last year. I mean, at least we made that window. But yeah, we're just gonna kind of see what goes on here, and we're hoping that we get the record out like right before the start of the summer next year. So I mean, it's definitely gonna be next year sometime, but as soon as we can get out on stage, for sure.
Well,
but in the meantime, November 11th,
you can watch you guys from the comfort of your very own home.
Live online for $10. You can see us live, a whole show, and you get it for 48 hours, and it's at 5 p.m. Eastern, November 11th. And again, if you can't make that time, it streams for 48 hours if you buy a ticket, and we'll see you at the rock show.
Yeah, and when you guys finally are able to get back on the road and you obviously come up to New England, you and I will sit down again in person this time.
For sure. Would love to.
All right, I would love that.
And
all right, go.
And good luck with your mom, you know.
The whole family thing and being a newlywed during a pandemic when he's deployed. It's like, can you just throw one more fucking thing into 2020?
Hey,
the fact that we found out aliens are real this year and nobody's even friggin' talking about it just shows you how crazy it's been.
I mean, that's like, how could you not know that aliens are real when you look up in the sky and see how many stars there are? Not to think that there's not another planet Earth somewhere, you know?
I know. I believe in them, but the fact that the Pentagon was like, yeah, the video that Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 had on his alien website page is actually real. It's like, we live in this fucking weird place where Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 is now a leading expert in extraterrestrials. What the fuck?
It's nuts.
It's nuts.
It's crazy.
Well, I'll let you go finish your vocal warm-ups and get to your recording.
Me. Yes, I will. I'll see you in a sec. I'm going to go work.
Yeah, go get to work.
Right.
And then if I ever need my blood drawn, I'll hit you up and
if you
let
ever
you know.
need your blood drawn, anyone out there, I'll get you. I'll stick you.
Bye, Josh. Right. Thank you so much.
Take care, darling. Bye.
See ya. Well, there he is, Josh Todd from Buckcherry. Now you can... don't forget, linked in the description of this podcast is the custom playlist for this episode. Tons of great Buckcherry music in there. There's also links for everything Buckcherry, including the live stream coming up on November 11th. So click the link and get your tickets. I want to thank once again Latini Creative Solutions at latinicreative.com and the Maine Hair Lounge at mainhairlounge.com for sponsoring this week's episode. Thanks to everybody who has a Mistress Carrie backstage pass, which you can get on Patreon. And also everybody that's been having me make custom Cameo videos on the Cameo app. Just search Mistress Carrie. I love doing that. If you like what you heard, click subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes every Wednesday. And the Sit Rep, Monday through Friday. All your headlines and music, everything you need to know in under 5 minutes. So if you click subscribe, you'll get everything. And if you don't mind leaving a 5-star review and a comment, that would be awesome. And join me live every Tuesday night on my Facebook page at 8:30 for Cocktails in the War Room.
To celebrate joining Pantheon Podcasts, Rock Camp, the podcast, the official podcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, is giving away a guitar signed by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth, and legendary shredder Zakk Wylde, plus our rockstar counselors like Vinny Appice, Monty Pittman, and more. To enter to win, simply follow, rate, and review our podcast on your preferred platform, and that's all you have to do. For more information, go to rockcamp.com/podcast.